You know, it's never a dull moment. We were having a conversation and he just fist punched me in the arm. 30-year-old man.
Just like kicking and screaming and banging their head against the wall.
Like this, and I put my leg up. I haven't been having the best of luck in psychiatry. Guys, it's 10:30. Thursday. Just got out of my last shift. 10:30 a.m. What the heck? Today's a half day, but last shift of psychiatry, kind of bittersweet. Gonna miss other med student friends doing psych with me and pushing through, and I'm gonna miss my attending and my amazing resident, and of course my patients. That's probably the saddest part of leaving every rotation, especially with these patients. I've seen a lot of them since day one. So a lot of these patients are kind of like, sorry, I'm in an elevator. They've been here since my first day, and I've been seeing them every day since then, and so it's a little hard to leave them behind, you know, and I hope they all get better and recuperate and go back home. But it's different from like other rotations where you just see patients and they leave within a day or two. So these were more long-term, so it hurts a little bit more. Hey guys, so on lunch break right now. Wanted to kind of get back to you about some of the things that I like about psych. So other than the action and the things, everyday things you can see, or not everyday things you can see on the floor, I really like the resident that I'm with, which is a little new for me since coming from Fort Wayne and doing my clinical rotations there. I was always with an attending physician, so being with the resident's pretty cool. You know, a resident is just someone who is in residency, which is just when I graduate from medical school, I'll travel on to residency, which is basically training for the specialty you want to be into, and you're getting paid for it. So my guy's super cool. He's actually a PhD, and he's doing psychiatry, and you know, just having a good resident to work with just makes the rotation go so much better. And I haven't been having the best of luck in psychiatry, so I'm really glad I got paired with him. Other than that, I mean, yeah, psychiatry, I don't think I'm going to do inpatient psychiatry. That's definitely not for me. But I love all the action that's on the floor. You know, it's never a dull moment when I'm there. Ooh, actually another thing that I like about psychiatry inpatient that I'm really enjoying. Oh, 1 second. I like the downtime with the patients. I get to color with them and get to know them in a non-hostile environment. You know, it's just really soothing, and that's another one of my favorite parts of the rotation, just coloring with the patients. And nursing students are also there, so it's really fun, and we're all kind of like the same age. I do notice that there's a lot of young people on psychiatry inpatient, so a lot of 20s, 20 to 30-year-olds, so sad, but also very true. So hopefully get back to you guys with some more stuff, more cool stories. So my typical day on the rotation, I'll come in anywhere between 7:30 a.m. and 8 a.m. and I'll go into the medical record system, review my patients that I have assigned for me, and go over like what they came in for, what kind of symptoms they're having, as well as any updates for the physicians, like over the weekend, what happened, what medications did they need, if any events happened where they had to go to the seclusion room, and if they were agitated. We have a 10:30 meeting, and so I'll gather information of how their mood has been, how their sleep has been, how their appetite has been, if they're having any auditory hallucinations, if they're seeing things other people can't see, if they're thinking about hurting themselves, if they're thinking about hurting other people. I'll kind of gather all of that from talking to them, from reading what happened from the night before or the weekend. And then at the 10:30 meeting, I'll kind of give a brief synopsis of like any pertinent information that the doctors need to know. that's all taken until like 11:30. Then like between 11:30 and 12 we kind of like go have lunch. Sometimes it goes till 12:30, and then if there's any new patients we see them after lunch, and I see the new patients with my doctor and resident, and we interview them, and then usually that's kind of the end of the day. So I'm usually off around 1 to 2, which is really nice. So a lot of assignments are due for psychiatry, and it's like a 2.5 week rotation, so it's very, very short. So it's very easy to fall behind. Like this Wednesday we have 3 documents we need to submit, and next Wednesday there's like 6. So I have to really get on the ball with that. So I'm eating lunch right now. But today is interesting. Today I got punched by a patient, so that was great. No, it wasn't. This gentleman is severely on the spectrum, has intellectual disability, and we were having a conversation, and he just closed fist punched me in the arm. 30-year-old man punched me in the arm, and I kind of did this thing where I was like, I was kind of in shock. Like there's no way I could have dodged it because it was out of nowhere, and I asked him, you know, a simple question, and he just kind of like went like that in my arm, and I kind of did this thing where I went like this, and I put my leg up kind of like to brace myself, and luckily there's a nurse station nearby, and she saw it and she came out. I'm totally fine. It was not hard whatsoever. I've been punched harder, and it was on my arm, so it's fine. Turns out he actually punched one of the doctors earlier before that, and the doctors and residents were really nice in making sure I was okay. But it wasn't, I was more shocked that it actually happened to me. Crazy story. Hopefully that never happens again. About taking one for the team. Week 1 was crazy. I like psychiatry inpatient, but I'm definitely don't see myself doing it. Not inpatient, at least. Too hectic for my liking. I don't like that I always have to feel like I'm on my toes, watching my back. You know, there's patients on the floor who are known to pull people's hair out, so I really don't like that. I don't like how I have to really think about the questions before asking them, like, how's your day? Sometimes you can't really ask that all willy-nilly to some patients on the psych ward because it kind of can trigger some emotional stressors. You know, asking too many questions can aggravate patients, and they'll scream at you, tell you to get out of their face, get out of their room. And I like to have conversations with my patients, and some of these patients can't even have any conversations. Their train of thought is just everywhere. You know, they're saying that they're Superman. I've had a patient tell me that he was Usher, but then he was James Bond, and then, you know, just a whole bunch of ideas. And a part of what I like about medicine is the conversational aspect of it and building rapport with patients, and it's much harder to do that here on the psychiatry floor. That's my experience so far. I mean, it's interesting, and it's definitely different from the rotations that I've been on.
Okay, so the schizophrenia. So who I've had. Seriously? Okay, so the majority of patients I saw, patients with schizophrenia, you have a misregulation of dopamine in your brain, and it causes you to hear things, this flat effect with your mood. Sometimes it causes you to be secluded. Mom is noticing that her son doesn't come out of his room anymore, doesn't shower, doesn't really tend to himself, doesn't talk to his friends anymore. Sometimes mom will come in and say, I hear him talking to people in his room, and I go in and no one's in there. Concerns of this, and it's usually more prevalent in younger males, so in the 20s to 30s. depending on how they were brought in. You know, some people were brought in because they were saying that they were going to hurt someone, and so when that happens, sometimes you have to be in on an emergency detention or an immediate detention. They are usually off their medications. Typically keep them here to kind of restabilize them on a good medication regimen. It's definitely the hardest rotation that I've done so far. Of the interview with the patient and talking to the patient is very, very, very different from talking to other people. Usually these patients can be in a manic episode where they are just talking really, really fast and the things that they're saying aren't making sense. And so I enjoy medicine because of that conversational aspect you can have with people. And it was really hard to kind of get things from the patient when they're in that sort of state of mind, because these patients, you just get all of that jibber jabber, and I guess it tells you something, but it's so much different from what I was used to. The last thing that I'll talk about is what happens usually when a patient gets agitated on the unit. So when they start being really, really loud, sometimes aggressive with other patients, the nursing staff there do a really good job in kind of redirecting the patient and, you know, talking to them when they're in that state of mind. I am really bad with confrontation. If a patient starts yelling and screaming, like I really don't know what to do from there. But these nurses, they're trained for this kind of behavior, so they'll redirect them. Sometimes they'll be like, let's go and talk about this in your room, like, come on, you know, Sophie or whatever, let's go and talk about this in your room. If that doesn't work, security is called, and they were called often, and we will have to give the patient injection medication to kind of clear their thought process and to calm them down. And usually the patients are receptive to this because, you know, they know that they're agitated and they kind of know the deal. So security is just there for safety purposes. And then if the medication isn't working and they're still being kind of resistant to taking that medication, they will go into what is called a seclusion room. I've never seen a seclusion room because I've never had to put a patient in there, but it is a white room with no windows and a door with a very small window, and the patient goes in there until he or she calms down and they're able to verbalize with, you know, the nurse of what they did wrong and what they did to end up in seclusion. Usually patients will calm down from there and then they'll get, you know, released. But if that doesn't work, and some patients will sometimes get even more agitated in there and they'll kick and scream, and if that doesn't work, they'll get taken out of seclusion and they will be put in 4-way restraints. Usually this is reserved for patients who are harm to themselves, like kicking and screaming and banging their head against the wall. So they will go in 4-way restraints, which is just, I've never seen it done on anybody, but their hands and legs are just strapped onto the bed, and they have one person watching them in the room, and they will kind of talk to them and try to get them to understand how they ended up at that point, and they'll get released. They don't want to keep patients in 4-way restraints. It's not what their goal is. So that's all I want to talk to you guys about psychiatry. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Just a preview of what's going to be going on next with my schedule. I am entering into surgery, and that is a 6-week rotation. And the hours are going to be long. I'm doing 3 weeks of general surgery, and then I'm doing my last 3 weeks with pediatric surgery. So I will let you guys know how that is. I'm kind of excited, but not too excited about the hours, so I'll keep you guys updated and hopefully let you know how it's going. So thanks for watching. Bye.